Hello, hello, Katie Kimball here. And you may know that my family has personally tested over 100 natural mineral sunscreens. It's been kind of a thing for us for almost a decade, and I've dedicated a lot of time in the spring and summer to getting the message out there that chemical sunscreens are not good for our bodies, they're not good for the oceans, they're not good for our environment, and they're causing so many problems. And then what's the alternative? Super simple switch to just look for zinc oxide sunscreen. What's really exciting this year in 2019 and even last year in 2018, there's actually finally becoming some legislation against some of the ingredients that myself and many others have been talking out against for many, many years. So it's very exciting. And I have a special guest here with us today. Tatiana Cerullo is an attorney from Hawaii. She's a former triathlete and a sunscreen formulator. She's also a mom of two lovely children. And she and her husband founded the Kokua Sun Care brand in 2017. They are amazing and fervent advocates of reef safety and also human health when it comes to what we put on our skin to protect from the sun. So I asked her to come here today to talk to the Kitchen Stewardship audience about the legal stuff, all these really exciting laws and bills are exciting. They are exciting when they make positive change in the world and help keep our families and our environment safe from us. So welcome, Tatiana. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. Aloha, everybody.
Aloha to Hawaii from the cold, cold Michigan. Let's dive right in. Your background's pretty fascinating, starting out as a lawyer and now creating sunscreen. Like, how did those passions intersect? And why is that law experience coming in really handy now that the trends are finally going in the right direction?
Well, let's see. I actually went to law school because I wanted to do environmental law. Um, that was my drive. I wanted to save the whales and, make positive change for nature because I grew up spending a lot of time in nature as a kid, and that became my passion. And so I went to law school and I learned that really what's out there, the big industry is not always looking out for your best interest. And so,
Shocking, right?
right. And, I'm sitting in corporate law class and and now I finally get it. Okay, so the priority is money and it's the shareholders' best interest, not the consumer and not the environment. And it just started to make me have a lot of questions about what I actually buy in the store. And I realized that I need to do a lot of my own research and I have to be my own advocate to make sure that what I'm putting in my body, on my body, or what I'm cleaning my house with is actually something that's safe and healthy. So that kind of is the background of looking into products out there in a deeper way. And then as most careers go, they kind of meander. So I ended up kind of going down a different track into corporate and litigation. But I always wanted to do something to make a difference for the environment. And I did actually practice some environmental law, but what I'm finding now is that I'm making a big difference, not through practicing environmental law, but through providing a healthy reef safe sunscreen. So it's kind of fulfilling that desire that I had going into my early career and education to make a difference for the environment and for human health as well.
That's so great. And we are going to get into the various laws and how you've been able to be involved with that law background in just a second. But I just want to kind of let people know a little bit about your sunscreen journey, too. You and your husband were very diligent in the process of creating Kokua. Can you give us a quick overview, kind of your story of formulating it and why you were unbearably picky, according to the labs you were working with, to try to get your product made?
Yeah, absolutely. So Um, we realized early on that sunscreen is not so easy to make. We wanted to create a sunscreen that was natural, but that actually went on the skin smooth, like a moisturizing lotion. And when I met my husband, I was doing triathlon quite a bit, and I was doing long training sessions and races. And the natural sunscreens on the market just weren't cutting it for me. I felt like they were really sticky and greasy, that they weren't really staying on, and they separated. So they weren't, I wasn't really sure if they were working the way they claimed they were supposed to be working. Um, but I definitely had moved on from chemical sunscreens because I could just feel the toxicity, and the fact that they just didn't even work was had turned me off from chemicals already for a long time. So when I met my husband, I was using the natural sunscreens, and he actually had just been sailing around the world and only using cheap chemical toxic sunscreen. And he was complaining to me that he was always burned, his eyes were stinging, that the sunscreen melts the marine plexiglass, the chemical spray sunscreens. And so we kind of came together and said, there really is a need in the market, in the world, for a sunscreen that kind of bridges the gap between natural and high performance and smooth application. And we thought, well, we can really get a lot of people using natural sunscreens if it actually goes on really well. Like, that would be the biggest converter, is if
Yeah.
we could create something that goes on smooth and clear.
Yep, that's so true
Feels good.
and quick because that's what I hear people all the time say. Oh, like I tried the natural stuff and it was cakier, it was greasier, it was gummier, it made me look like Casper or a statue. And then the other is, yeah, like, oh, come on, Katie, I just wanna spray. I want it to be quick. Like I'll put natural on myself, and my husband says he's not doing it.
Yeah, exactly. So, that is a really tall order, to actually have a natural sunscreen that has a high percentage of your active ingredient, zinc, which is some one of the formulators told us, look, it's like working with clay. Zinc is this white powder, and when you mix it with oil and other things, it just turns into a white, clumpy clay. Now, how are you going to make that go on your skin so it actually just is like a moisturizing lotion? So, we didn't even realize how long it was going to take us to achieve our dream sunscreen. So we went down this road, um, and we went through 3 labs. The first two literally just, they kept giving us samples. We would say, okay, we want these ingredients and these ingredients, and we don't want those. And they would give us samples. Um, and there was just always something wrong with it. Either there would be some ingredient in there that we vetted and just said, no, this, we can't have this in here, or just the performance of it would be awful. Like, it would be either be chalky or too greasy, or it would flake, or it was separating, or whatever. We just went through dozens of formulas, and we thought, oh my gosh, okay, this is taking years and years and years, but we just didn't even want to launch a company if it wasn't the dream sunscreen that we always wanted. We just thought, what's the point? We're just going to keep going until we actually finally achieve it.
Nice. And it really is like, again, we've tested over 100, and Cocoa is one of the only bottles we've actually finished because we have so many around. It goes on smooth, it smells good. It's very nice. So that's exciting, but I'm much more excited about this next part. Last year, the media was in a frenzy over Hawaii's ban on oxybenzone, right? Some were lauding the ban as a welcome swing in the right direction. Others were like, totally fear tactics. Oh my gosh, everyone's going to get sunburned. Skin cancer rates are going to go up because clearly there's no effective sunscreen without this toxic ingredient. Like, what's the real story that happened in Hawaii?
Well, yeah. So industry came in. There were lobbyists. The chemical and cosmetic associations brought their people in to try to get people to say, oh no, if we have this ban, we're all going to get sun cancer, or sorry, not sun, skin cancer, and it's going to be so awful. People aren't going to have anything to protect themselves. I mean, and that is just complete rubbish. There are actually many sunscreens that are very good, and zinc mineral based sunscreens that are safe for people and the environment. And we've come a long way since the days of, just the paste right over the nose
Right.
that the lifeguards used. I mean, there are really quality products out there, and there's absolutely no basis in fact about saying, okay, there's nothing else that we can wear. Everyone's just going to have to get skin cancer now. I mean, of course, it's the industry position because the chemical sunscreen industry is a multi-billion dollar industry, and of course they have a lot to lose by these bans coming into play. And they knew, especially in Hawaii, that it would start a trend, which it has.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about that. Now, Hawaii passed the law, right? No oxybenzone or octinoxate in Hawaii.
Right, exactly.
Hmm.
It's, you know okay, I'll tell you the real story, because yes, it banned octinoxate and oxybenzone, and that is great because those are very offensive chemicals. There's science in so many ways to show the damage to marine life, especially corals, but also to humans. They're endocrine disruptors, and we could go on all day about how bad they are. And those are two chemicals that I'm so grateful that they've banned. But the ban doesn't even go into effect until January 1st, 2021.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that little
Yeah.
detail.
Yeah. And so, in the meantime, the big industry wants to sell off their, inventory and reformulate, and that was basically the point behind pushing back the effective date.
Mm.
So there's that. And then, you know, we talk about, baby steps, and that's, of course, what we have to do. This sunscreen law was amazing for awareness about what is in our products. But I have to say that oxybenzone and octinoxate are not the only two toxic ingredients out there. So this is just a start, really. It's great that those are banned, and it's raised all kinds of awareness. But the other chemicals that are in our personal care products, a lot of them are also toxic. So it's kind of a process of education and awareness, and evolving to the point where we can actually have um, products that are just safe and healthy, rather than just, okay, well, we've taken out these two, that's it.
Right. Yes, it's a start. It's not perfect, but I love that the ball is continuing to roll. So can you tell us other places in the world that are starting to talk about these chemicals and reef safety?
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 weeks after Hawaii passed their law, the Caribbean island of Bonaire, they also banned octinoxate and oxybenzone, also with the effective date of January 1st, 2021. That's a very popular diving destination, and they
Mm.
have their corals. I mean, that's their livelihood. People come there to see the beautiful corals and fish and the coral reef system. And if it's dead, they don't have an industry. So that came 2 weeks later, and then uh, there was a ban in Palau. Palau is a small Western Pacific island nation. It's close to Philippines. It's 2 hours from Guam. It's way out there.
You
And
may
actually,
recognize it from a Survivor episode, or Survivor was
right.
Palau. I know that's what I recognize it from.
I actually was just there in November, and it was coincidence. I didn't go there because of the sunscreen law. I was going there for my law practice. It so happened that they had just passed their sunscreen law. So I went and actually talked to people who were instrumental in getting it passed. One of the politicians who helped push it through, and then also the attorney in the government agency who actually wrote the law. I met him, and then the Coral Research Reef Coral Reef Research Foundation that had done the studies that showed all these chemicals in their
Mm.
pristine environment. And that was also the basis. But what's really interesting about Palau is that they didn't just ban octinoxate and oxybenzone, they banned 10 ingredients.
Ooh,
And
go
that's
Palau.
huge. And it was kind of a sneak attack because they didn't really put it out there that they were going to be banning these ingredients. They just they just did it. They have a really interesting sustainability framework. When you enter the country, you have to sign a pledge that you are going to protect the environment and do whatever you can to be a good steward of the environment.
I
I mean, I
love
was
it.
very, very impressed. And the other really cool thing about the Palau law is that uh, you can't even bring toxic sunscreen into the country. They will confiscate it at the airport. So
Awesome.
in Hawaii and Bonaire, um, that law is basically you can't buy it here. So you can't have it for sale, and you can't bring it
Mm-hmm.
in. I mean, no, but you can bring it in. So you just can't buy it here. Retailers can't sell it. So if you bought some toxic sunscreen anywhere else in the world and then you wanted to bring it in, you could do that and you could wear it and that would be that.
That's so sad.
So
Hopefully
it
you
doesn't
would
have
get
a
the
lot
like
of
the
teeth.
sideways eyes on the beach though. Like, what do you have? Hopefully.
Yeah. And then the fines, I think it's $500. But in Palau, if you're caught selling or importing toxic sunscreen, it's $1,000 fine. But the big thing I think is to confiscate at the airport. Just
Right.
like when you come into Hawaii, there's a an agricultural there's an amnesty bin. Like if you're bringing in some food, you can toss it because there's certain rules about what agricultural products can come into Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
Why? To protect our environment. So, that would be another next step would be to actually confiscate or not even allow people to bring in toxic sunscreens.
Yes,
But.
absolutely. And hopefully education. I mean, hopefully consumer education will make
Mm-hmm.
that happen anyway. People will be like, "Oh, I'm going to Hawaii. I need to buy the good stuff because Hawaii knows what they're doing."
Yeah.
And then oh man, let's just see that spill out. Where do you see this realistically headed? Like, do you feel like there are some next steps to the snowball effect?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be like dominoes. I think most places will start with octinoxate and oxybenzone, but thank goodness for places like Palau who are starting another track where, oh, okay, well there are these other ingredients that probably are also worthy of being banned. So that kind of just is starting the awareness and the snowball. Actually, California um, just a bill was introduced in their legislative session in December. I don't know where it is right now, what the status is, but it's been introduced. So, get California, and I think after that, it's just a matter of time before a lot of places just start passing the law, at least for those two. And then I think, as the momentum builds, people will become aware of other chemicals that actually are highly toxic as well.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely the
it's
right
pretty
direction. So
exciting.
I didn't know about the California bill. So that is similar to Hawaii, banning the sale of
Yes.
sunscreens using those chemicals.
Yeah, and it's a $500 penalty if you sell it.
Okay,
That's what
which
it would
is,
be.
hey, we can take it to California, but if we can't restock once we get there, it's a huge step in the right direction. Are there
Yeah.
other places in the US or in the world that have like legislation in motion right now in this direction?
Um, I've heard about the possibility of the FDA looking at it, but I don't know where that's going to go. I really don't know that much about it, but I think that is on the horizon eventually. Um, and I do a lot of work in the Marshall Islands. I'm licensed to practice law there, and I'm talking with some senators there who are interested in passing a law in the Marshall Islands as well. And
Okay, that would be awesome. Keep up the good work.
yeah, definitely. And it would definitely be as stringent or more than the Palau one.
Ooh,
Just because I would probably be the one writing
I
it.
love that. Okay, so Marshall Islands, maybe California. Is Key West on this list?
Absolutely. Key West just passed their law um, to ban octinoxate and oxybenzone as well. It's very, very exciting because Key West has the third largest barrier reef, and it is home to thousands of marine species, and they really need to protect their natural resource there. So that was an exciting, momentous event that just happened last week.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but Key West, is this like a municipal law? Is it just the city or how big does it go?
Yeah, it's not the whole state of Florida. It's just the just Key West.
Okay. And
Yeah.
and this is again, you can't buy or sell it in Key West, but people traveling there could bring their own. But again, man, like
Mhm.
hopefully education will say, "Oh, wow, I'm going to Key West." Like you should feel bad. You should feel guilty
Yeah.
about bringing stuff that you can't buy there because it'll hurt the reefs. Now, I know a lot of times with like green building laws or a lot of like air quality laws, the legislation is to care for the environment. Unfortunately, legislation rarely, and this is crazy, rarely looks at human health and safety. So we're kind of fortunate in this instance that these bans are going to help both the environment and human health. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. I think it got so much attention because of the coral and how oxybenzone and octinoxate deform coral, cause bleaching, make the coral less resilient to climate change and other pollutants. They don't bounce back.
Hmm.
Um, they cause DNA damage. Those chemicals will feminize male fish. I mean, it's really bad stuff. And so I think the initial attention was on what it was doing to the environment. And of course, behind that is okay, Hawaii's tourist economy. So, okay, we got to protect that. But then, oh, by the way, this is a health concern for humans as well. I think the driver was actually the environment. And then, oh, okay, well, this is this is good because we're protecting people too. But I don't think that it was the concern for human health that was the number one driver. But whatever, I'll take it.
Right. Yeah. So I'm in the same position, but I do feel a little cynical, like, oh, everybody cared about the coral. Isn't that cute? And then money got into it.
Yeah,
Now we're rocking and rolling.
now
Now
we're
we're making
talking.
legislation.
Yeah,
Oh, human health. Well, actually, when people get sick, that kind of feeds the economy, right? The medical system. Okay.
right,
Sometimes
right.
I get a little cynical soapboxy. But what about the rest of us? What about those of us in states and municipalities and islands and countries and continents that don't have any bans on these toxic ingredients, but we kind of like the earth we live in and we kind of like the people who live in our house and we want to keep them safe. What are some really basic steps that all of us can do to continue to push this pendulum in the right direction and help protect the environment regardless of legislation?
Are you talking about sunscreen in particular?
Sure. I mean, yeah, these let's just take oxybenzone and octinoxate.
Mhm.
What do we need to do to avoid these? Is it difficult?
Yeah, just read the labels, turn the sunscreen over. Don't actually read what's on the front because it might be very misleading. It might say zinc sunscreen, but then when you turn it over, it'll have a small percentage of zinc plus a bunch of other chemicals. And, there's a lot of research about other chemicals. So you just want to avoid chemicals and you don't really have to remember all the names of them. You should really just look for a good zinc sunscreen. That is actually the best. It provides the most broad spectrum protection, even more than titanium dioxide, which is good. It's a good mineral sunscreen, but it doesn't even cover as much of the UVA spectrum as zinc does. So it's just a no brainer to reach for zinc. And then if you want to go, and that's a good starting point. Like if that's all you do, great. But then of course there are other chemicals that you probably would want to watch out for, like parabens and phenoxyethanol. Those are common preservatives, and actually phenoxyethanol is a common one that you'll find in natural products.
Natural
But
products, that one drives me crazy. I'll be reading ingredients. Yes, 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 yes. And the second to last, ah,
yep,
phenoxyethanol. And it's one of those things where I go, oh, maybe it's not that bad. Like so many natural products, so many really high quality companies that are upstanding and just will talk all day long about, how they value human health and safety. And then I just see that preservative and I'm like, oh, I don't know. For
yep,
me, it's usually a deal or no deal. Usually it's a no deal.
yeah, it's a no deal for us. Phenoxyethanol, they used it to stun fish. Like they've used it in the aquarium, like the fish collecting industry. Like they'll use it to stun them and capture them for aquariums, or to even just catch fish en masse. Like that, they'll put that. I mean, something that can stun fish, obviously is not good for the environment, and what's it doing to humans. So not a good one. And also I know it's an irritant for eyes and lips too.
And it's in
Mm,
mascara, lipstick, it's in lotions. I mean, this is a preservative and it is really tricky. It's in a lot of green products.
mm,
I don't exactly know how it got its like greenwashed reputation, but we're putting
mm,
these on like some of the most sensitive parts of our body when you think about like foundation or moisturizer around your eyes or like your
mm.
armpits. And these are, the skin is thin. It's going in, man.
Going in, yes. Anything that goes on your body is going in your body and then out of your body. Um, so
Hmm.
that's one point too, to when you talk about what can you do around the world, even if you don't live near coral. It's also, it's an issue of human health. And even if you're not in the beach or going into the ocean, whatever goes what goes on your skin is going in you and then out of you, and it's going into the sewer system. And our waste treatment facilities cannot process out those kind of chemicals. So it's just going back into the environment and then being treated, but not removed, and then out into the ocean again somehow, or out into the environment and our
Right. Or
rivers and
into our
lakes and
drinking water.
streams, and exactly into our drinking water as well. So it's going into rivers, lakes, streams, oceans, everywhere. I was just looking at the NPR released on their Facebook page about the Key West ban, and I saw one of the comments that said, well, I live in Seattle and I wear sunscreen all summer, or, please tell me how this is affecting the coral in Key West. Um, and so what you got to understand is, you know, it's affecting all of our environments, and it's the habit of putting chemicals on our skin. It's going to be pervasive, and it's going to live on in our drinking water and our rivers, lakes, streams, and whatever body of water you're next to. So yeah, it that your particular sunscreen in Seattle isn't affecting Key West, but it's affecting you and your environment where you are. So it's not just for people who live near the ocean and the coral reefs, because it's not just about the coral.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. I almost want to say it's cute. It's not cute. It's important and it's vital to protect our coral, but like it's so much bigger than that. And I do think in our society, we tend to think of ourselves as like a little island, that what we do doesn't really affect other people. The purchasing decisions we make don't really affect other people because we just feel like this one, like tiny small voice or tiny small consumer in a big crowd that we don't make an impact. But I was just actually speaking today with the researcher, Craig Downs, who kind of started this research and discovered the toxic effects of oxybenzone. And he was saying that in Spain and Portugal, the government wanted to test the fish there. They tested the fish, found that 80% of the fish was highly toxic because of the chemicals that they're swimming around in. That's our fault. It's the stuff getting washed out of our homes, like you said,
Yeah.
into the sewer systems, out into the oceans. And the major culprit was the fragrance in Tide. So, what you
Right.
wash your
Yeah.
clothing with in your own house, in your own washing machine, not
Mm.
only is affecting the human health of the people you love who live in your home,
Mhm.
it's affecting the water quality in your community, it's going out into the oceans, it's affecting the fish. Now, what's eating the fish? Who's eating the fish? Right? Like this is a ripple effect that we can't stop once we start it. We've got to be cognizant of
Mhm.
every single decision we make. It
Yes.
matters. Oh my goodness. Can I just like scream and shout that enough? It drives me
Yes.
crazy. It matters. So if we can do nothing else, we've got to get an education mindset out there and a stewardship mindset that we need to not only care for our environment, but care for our fellow human beings who,
Mhm.
who are stuck here with us. We're all
Yeah.
impacting each other.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, here in Hawaii, sometimes you'll see families spraying their kids with sunscreen, and the trade winds come through, and literally it's this puff of spray just going into everyone else's faces, and you can smell it. I mean, you talk about the sunscreen going in and the fish, ingesting it, and then the seafood tastes like chemical fragrance or whatever. That's disgusting. And it's the same concept. Like if you go to the beach and someone's spraying, it's like the new smoking, but worse, because
Yes. I
it's
think it's
like,
like smoking, but nobody else does. People think I'm weird. I'm at a baseball game and people spray near me, and I'm like, oh, children, like, children, come over here, hold your breath. And then I
yeah,
realize no one else
I'm
has
the same.
reacted like that. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm weird. No, I'm a sentinel. I'm going to stand here and tell you all that spray sunscreen in particular, is the new smoking. Thank you.
Yeah, it's going into my lungs and my kids' lungs. I did not choose to have them inhale those chemical toxins. And by the way, you're getting probably about 20% of it on your skin.
Right?
So what's the
No.
point even? And by the way, it's toxic. So it's worse to even spray that on than to wear nothing. And I could go on. But, it's just not fair that when you have now the aerosols that, you're not just immediately affecting yourself, you're affecting everyone around you. So that's a big one. to
Those
really
are some of my
think
least.
about it, to
Yeah.
really think about what you're doing for you isn't just for your little island, like you said. Not It's not just for yourself, it's for really everyone around you.
hmm Good deal. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I know we're in good contact, and so I'm
Yeah.
excited. Like I'm excited to watch this snowball pick up speed and keep rolling and educate people, and let's, go viral and get people thinking about their purchasing decisions, their what they put on their skin. It really does all matter. So I know that we here at Kitchen Stewardship will be trying to update our audience as legislation comes through and as things go on. So guys, if you're in a place where coral matters, speak up. Like, get your legislators to start writing some of these laws. Say, hey, Hawaii, Palau, Caribbean, Key West, California, it's happening. Like, let's be part of this. If you're not in a place where you have coral, like me in Michigan, although we are a state with Great Lakes and 10,000 inland lakes, like water quality is a huge issue here as
Mhm.
well. We just don't have the coral. We don't have like like we don't have that draw of save the whales, save the coral. Like
Yeah.
people don't know that we're that important, but we totally are. Like it's just as important, no matter where you live, to care for your water quality. Because, like Tatiana said, our water treatment systems are not equipped to take out every single chemical. They're is particularly, from what I understand, unequipped to take out the endocrine disruptors and the estrogenic
Mhm.
chemicals and all the kind of like hormonal stuff. That's the hardest to get out, and that's what we're putting on our bodies. No, no, no. It has to stop. It has to stop. So again, I'm going off, but thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. And we'll definitely continue to be in touch. We will link to Kokua Sun Care, which is an awesome zinc oxide based natural mineral sunscreen, safe for the reefs, safe for the humans. It's a good bonus. Um,
Yeah.
and any current coupon codes that you have. So again, thank you again for your diligence in creating that sunscreen. Thank you for your diligence in legislation and in putting that law degree to good work to really save the earth and save our kids.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here talking with you, and thank you for all you do too.
You bet. Here at Kitchen Stewardship, we will never shut up. Pick a good
Right
sunscreen,
on.
folks.
It's